There's a story about a professor who traveled a long way to ask a Zen master a single question. He wanted to know what Zen was, so the master invited him in and began to pour tea. He poured until the cup was full. Then he kept pouring. The tea ran over the rim, across the table, onto the floor. The professor watched for as long as he could bear it. Then he said, "It's overflowing. No more will go in." "Like this cup," the master said, "you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" That story is almost 200 years old. Tonight, we are going to sit with it properly. Not as a fortune cookie line, but as an instruction for a mind like yours, tired, informed, and very, very full. The master's name was Nan-in. He lived in Japan in the 1800s, and he was known for a particular kind of teaching. He didn't lecture. He arranged small demonstrations and let the visitor draw their own conclusion, or fail to. The professor who came to him was not a fool. He had read the sutras. He had studied under other teachers. He came with real knowledge and a real question. He was not being lazy. He was not being arrogant, at least not on purpose. He was doing what any serious person does before a big decision. He did his research. So when Nan-in sat him down and served tea, the professor relaxed. This was familiar. Tea before conversation. A pleasant custom. He did not expect to be taught anything by watching a cup fill up. Nan-in poured. The professor watched the level rise and said nothing, because it would have been rude to interrupt. The cup reached the rim. Still Nan-in poured. For a moment, the professor must have thought it was an accident. An old man, distracted, mid-thought. But the pouring did not stop. The tea crossed the rim in a thin sheet and ran down the outside of the cup, onto the table, darkening the wood. And still, Nan-in poured. This is the part of the story people skip past too quickly. There is a gap, a real uncomfortable gap, between the moment the professor noticed something was wrong and the moment he finally spoke. In that gap, he was deciding something. Do I say this is strange? Do I trust that the old man knows what he's doing? Do I wait? Because maybe there's a lesson coming, and I don't want to look impatient. He waited as long as his nerves allowed. Then he broke. It's overflowing. No more will go in. And Nan-in set the pot down and said the line that outlived him by 2 centuries. Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup? No further explanation. No softening. The story simply ends there. The professor's response isn't recorded. Maybe that's the real teaching, that what happened in him after those words is not ours to know. It's only ours to ask of ourselves. Here's where most retellings of this story go wrong. They treat empty your cup as a general instruction to be humble. Be open-minded. Don't be arrogant. Nod and move on. But Nan-in wasn't scolding the professor for arrogance. He was pointing at something more specific and more forgivable. The cup wasn't full of arrogance. It was full of good things. True things, even. Sutras he had correctly memorized. Teachings he had correctly understood. A whole architecture of correct answers, built carefully, over years. That's what made the moment so precise and so quietly brutal. If the professor had been an ignorant man, Nan-in could have simply taught, poured knowledge into an empty vessel. Standard transaction. But the professor wasn't empty. He was already full of the right things, arranged the right way. And a cup that is full of the right tea still cannot receive new tea. Fullness isn't the problem because it's wrong. Fullness is the problem because it's finished. A finished container has no room left for what it doesn't already contain. This is worth sitting with, because your mind is not a professor's mind, exactly, but it is very likely a full one. Think about what you actually carry, day to day. Opinions about how your industry works. Frameworks for managing your time. A working theory of your own personality. Introvert, anxious, a morning person, bad at relationships. Conclusions about what happened in your childhood and what it explains. None of these are lies. Most of them, honestly, took real effort to arrive at. You read the books. You did the therapy. You paid attention to your own life. And that is exactly the trap Nan-in is naming. The trap isn't stupidity. The trap is a well-earned cup, poured full, set down, and never questioned again. Let's bring this into a life like yours. You work in an office or a version of one that lives on a screen. You are, by most measures, informed. You've read enough to have opinions on burnout, on meditation, on what your job is doing to you. You've probably already tried some of the tools. A meditation app, a morning routine from a podcast, a 4-day workweek article you sent to 3 friends. Some of it helped a little for a while. And here is the quiet, uncomfortable question this episode is actually asking. What if the reason the last 5 things you tried didn't fully work is not that they were the wrong tools, but that you received them the way the professor received Nan-in's tea? Already full. Evaluating instead of receiving. Fitting the new idea into the old shape of what you already believe instead of letting it change the shape. This happens with mindfulness apps constantly. Someone opens one already believing, I'm too busy for this, or this is probably not real medicine, or I've read about the science, I basically get it. The app teaches. The cup does not lower to receive. 10 minutes later, they close the app. Mildly more relaxed, and exactly as unchanged as they were before. Not because the app failed, because nothing was ever poured into an open space. It landed on a surface that was already full and ran off, the way tea runs off a table. This is not a flaw unique to you. It's the standard condition of an informed adult in the 21st century. You are exposed to more frameworks, hot takes, and expert opinions in one scrolling hour than a person 200 years ago encountered in a season. Of course, your cup is full. It would be strange if it weren't. The danger isn't that you know things. The danger is mistaking a full cup for a finished education. If emptying the cup were easy, the story wouldn't have survived 200 years. So let's be honest about why it's hard. Your opinions are not just information. They are furniture. You've built a room out of them, and you live in that room. It's familiar. It's yours. I'm not really a creative person. I don't do well with routine. That kind of meditation isn't for people like me. These sentences don't feel like data anymore. They feel like identity. So when something new arrives, a practice, a perspective, a piece of advice from a friend, it isn't just being evaluated for truth. It's being evaluated for how much it would cost to let it in. Because letting it in means admitting the room needs rearranging. And rearranging a room you've lived in for years feels less like learning and more like losing something. This is why intelligent, well-read people are sometimes the hardest to reach. Not because they're closed-minded in the cruel sense. Because they have more furniture, more correct answers, carefully placed, that a new idea would have to move around. Nan-in's tea wasn't cruel either. He didn't accuse the professor of being a bad student. He simply, patiently showed him the shape of his own fullness and let him see it for himself. That's the gentler reading of this whole story, and the one worth carrying with you. Emptying the cup is not an insult to what you've already learned. It's not throwing out the furniture. It's opening a window in a room that's gotten a little stale and letting in air that doesn't belong to you yet. So, practice. Tonight or tomorrow, how does someone with a full cup actually lower the level? Not by forgetting what you know. That's not the instruction, and it isn't possible anyway. The instruction is smaller and stranger. It's this. Before you respond to a new idea, notice the response that arrives first. Almost always, before you've even understood what's being offered, a small verdict appears. I already know this. This won't work for someone like me. I've tried something like this before. That verdict is the tea already in the cup, meeting the new tea at the rim. You don't have to believe the verdict. You don't have to fight it either. Just notice that it arrived before the understanding did. That's usually enough to create a half second of space where something new can actually land. Here is a small practice, plain enough to use this week. Once a day, when someone offers you an idea you're sure you already understand, a friend's suggestion, an article, a piece of feedback you didn't ask for, pause before your usual response. Ask yourself one question. Not, is this true? But what would it cost me to fully receive this, even for 1 minute? Then give it that 1 minute. No debate, no rebuttal prepared in the background. Just receive it. At the end of the minute, you're allowed to disagree completely. The cup doesn't have to stay empty forever. It only has to be empty long enough to let the new tea in. Most people skip this minute entirely. They go straight from hearing to filing the new idea under something they already believe. New information, old shell. Nothing rearranged, nothing changed. The professor, before Nan-in poured the tea, was doing exactly that. Filing Zen under things I already understand. The overflowing cup was the only thing patient enough and physical enough to interrupt him. You won't always have a Nan-in nearby, pouring tea onto your table until you notice. So the discipline has to become internal. The pause has to become the teacher. We don't know what the professor did after that afternoon. Whether he went home and stayed exactly as full as he arrived, or whether, somewhere on the road back, the image of tea running off the table finally caught up with him. That's not an accident. The story isn't finished on purpose, because the ending was never Nan-in's to write. It's the same today. This episode ends here. What happens to the cup you're carrying happens after the screen goes dark, not during. So before you close this, one honest question, and no answer required tonight. Where in your life right now are you full, certain, informed, already decided, in a way that might be quietly keeping something better from getting in? You don't have to answer it. You only have to let the question sit for a moment, unanswered. That's the whole practice. Old truths for a loud world. This has been The Quiet Path.